Welcome back as we continue our conversation, and this time it's all about the CDD's Afrobarometer. Now, some Ghanaians are willing to pay higher taxes to support the country's development, but they are questioning what these taxes go into in terms of the revenue accrued by the state. Hospital facilities, education, roads, they want to see more. It's a conversation on our taxes, and it's a conversation on the state of our economy. We're joined this morning by former finance minister and tax expert Seth Terkper. He joins the conversation via Zoom. A very good morning to you, Mr. Terkper. Okay, so we're going to try to connect with Mr. Terkper, who will be joining us shortly via Zoom. Okay, there we have it. Mr. Terkper, if you could, okay, so I believe you're in a vehicle, but if you could turn the phone the other way so we can have, a fuller view, we'd greatly appreciate that. So we're going to try to work that out as we engage Seth Terkper, former finance minister and tax expert. But what do you think? Are you willing to pay more taxes to ensure that you receive the sort of benefits that you want? We were just talking about roads, for example. Our road infrastructure is not in the best of states. Some of our roads need maintenance, a lot of them, in fact, and some of them to need new construction, so to speak. It all boils down to our taxes. Are you willing to pay more? Well, according to that CDD report, some Ghanaians, close to 70%, above 60%, are willing to pay more, but they also want to see more from government's end. And it's also interesting because a number of Ghanaians as well do not even know what taxes they are expected to pay or what forms they are supposed to take. And that's the conversation we delve into this morning, partly part of the conversation we delve into this morning. Mr. Terkper, if you can hear me now, maybe just unmute and let me see you. Right. Okay, so we'll try to get interactive with Mr. Terkper, but if we can get some of those details from the Afrobarometer report, it would be interesting. I've already highlighted how a number of Ghanaians, just about 70%, are willing to pay taxes, to pay even more taxes. And you would recall that in recent times, yes, some additional taxes or levies have been, placed on all of us. We have the 1% COVID-19 levy. Some people have kicked against that. We have the 1% NHIL or National Health Insurance levy that has been slapped on us as well. So let's just take a look at that recent Afrobarometer report as we get to see the fine details. And as you can see from there, at least some of the key findings, we can focus on that for now, indicating that 8 out of 10 citizens, that's about 79% of those sampled, say that tax authorities always have the right to collect taxes, and only just about 2 out of 10, that's 15%, disagreeing in that regard. So that's a first step, the fact that people are willing to pay their taxes. They believe that these authorities have the right to collect taxes. There's also this bit about a large majority, some 72%, being willing to pay more in taxes to help finance the country's development. But here's the catch. When you move to point 4, but large majorities say it's difficult to find out what taxes they are supposed to pay, that's about 61% of them, and how government uses tax revenues, that's about 70%. That's about 7 out of 10. Let's go back now and engage Honorable Seth Terkper, this time over the phone lines. Mr. Terkper, thank you for staying with us on this conversation. I hope you're well, sir.
Yeah, I'm well, and good morning to your viewers now listening.
Yes, indeed. Let's start from this point. You've taken a good look at the recent Afrobarometer report, and looking at the dynamics, first of all, about 71% of Ghanaians being willing to pay their taxes and even pay more if they see more What is your take on that? What does that tell you as a tax expert?
Well, as a former tax administrator and the gentleman in charge of the fiscal on behalf of citizens, I would say that such an awareness, of, the obligation to pay taxes as a citizen is very important. And it's something which GRA and all fiscal authorities should be happy with and work hard on. I say work hard on because you can see that there is an important proviso. They are willing to pay that tax provided the expenditure can be justified in their, from their perspective. So it is not an unconditional, willingness to pay tax. It is heavily conditional. And this is important in terms of whether we are not doing enough education on what the taxes are being used for, or in reality, taxes are not being seen as used for development. And again, it's important that the focus is on development. That is, as you said, I want my roads fixed. I want, the roads in particular. I want, my power on, which means investment in power infrastructure. I want, safe means of traveling if I have to use the waterways. So I think these are the conditional things that have been said. Having said that, I think it's important that we should also realize that it is this same, Ghanaians. And I don't know if the interview, I tried to find out, they didn't, went to businesses as well. Because in Ghana, businesses pay more of our taxes. So if it went to representatives by Ghanaians, we also mean legal entities, then it will be even more meaningful.
Well, it's a bit of an all-encompassing survey, I can tell you that. But let's go back to that conditionality you mentioned about being willing to pay taxes only if we see the fruit of our taxes being borne, like you mentioned, in our road infrastructure, in our health infrastructure, in our education, and in our general lives. But let's set aside the fact that you've been finance minister before. When you look at the fact that you're a citizen, you pay taxes, are you seeing those things that would make you want to pay more taxes as an ordinary citizen? Let's set aside your background and focus on that.
As a citizen, I expect more, and I expect more because I also see a government that is better endowed. Better endowed in the sense that it inherited 2 additional oil fields. It is at a level of producing and exporting crude at levels that are close to 200,000 barrels per day, compared to, let's say, earlier administrations that the Rawlings administration nailed, Kufuor administration, yes, commercialized but nailed, and 70,000, even struggling to get 70,000 instead of 110,000 by the Mears Mahama administration. So I would say that, with this endowment, with funds that has enabled it, supposed to handle difficulties like ESLA, Sinking Fund, and the rest. I would say that, as they say, as a citizen to whom more is given, talent, more is expected. But let me also chip in quickly. Let me add my own one qualification. That the way you phrase the question is very important. If I were to tell Ghanaians that you were paying taxes at a top marginal rate of 25%, and it has gone up, or 20%, and it has gone up to 30%, at the point it went up to 35%. Or if you are, I tell them, ESLA, which was called Minister of Taxes, was supposed to last, 5 years, and maximum, and it has been extended to 15 or 20 years by virtue of the when we are supposed to pay the loan, the ESLA bond. I presume the answer will be different. So I think that the precision, in the answer is very important. If I were to say NHIL, has been increased, will you be willing to pay more of those taxes? The answer could be different because as a citizen, the proviso, it means that even if we took the tax regime as it was, before these increases, then my expectations of the use of the revenue for development would even be dimmer. So I think maybe I would, and I haven't seen a questionnaire, but I would think that at our current stage of development, and especially, since this was conducted around COVID, the questioning, I hope, would have been more specific, so that we get, relevant answers.
So let me ask you this. In the current state, would you be willing to pay more taxes? And I premise it on this. Taxes are what governments use to run a country. So if we see the likes of Singapore and maybe the Asian tigers, if we see the Norways and the Swedens, they have got to those stages on the back of taxes. But you've also, I remember, after the 2021 budget statement, you had your own complaints about the NHI levy, about the 1% increments when it comes to the COVID-19 levy and all of that. As a citizen, I ask you again, would you be willing to pay more looking at the country's economic circumstances on the back of COVID-19?
Okay, let me say I will comment as an informed citizen because that is what I have. The nation invested in my education. I worked in GRA, Mount GRA, and was a coordinator for that. So I think it's important to be transparent with Ghanaians, and so that I answer, not as a minister of finance, but as an informed citizen, such as my colleague accountant and the rest. And you mentioned my opposition, and that is because when you take NHI and GET Fund, they were being collected as VAT, and it gave businesses, and for somebody who has a small family business, it gave businesses the mechanism, the original mechanism, allowed me to deduct the tax I pay on inputs because it is not a consumer tax. It is not a business tax. It's a consumer tax. It's not a corporate income tax, which I have to pay, or even my personal income tax. It is a tax I'm collecting on behalf of the government. And I pay the tax on my inputs. And then I am allowed to deduct it. And then so that I can lower my, right? Now the government took this out of the VAT base and blocked the tax on inputs, such that I am now going to charge the VAT and the NHIL and the GET Fund on my cost of production and on the tax which I paid. I'll be allowed to take VAT, but I won't be allowed to take NHIL. I won't be allowed to take GET Fund. As a result of which, I become less competitive. And if I want to be that obedient taxpayer, and I don't want to evade, I am in competition with people who do not have any compulsion at all when it comes to evasion or avoidance. So they will find every means to avoid the payment of that tax. But me being a dutiful citizen would be priced out because I will be adding those taxes where previously I got a relief. And therefore, it is not surprising that when those taxes were removed and the input tax credit or refund, as we call it in VAT, was put with the first to protect, where, Chamber of Commerce, AGI, cement prices shot up, and brewery and other, because they are transparent. Their methods and others are transparent. So on that basis, I would say no. I will be opposed, to one, if I understood, and as I understood it. So my, difference with a less informed Ghanaian, and I don't mean illiterate, I mean somebody who has read chemistry or whatever, and therefore may not be as informed in taxation or whatever, my reaction will be completely different, and it was completely different as a policymaker. And I'm still opposed, to removing the NHIL and the GET Fund from the VAT base and allowing businesses to get credit.
Right.
You know, because another example, once we are putting a tax on tax, we are not even making our businesses competitive for the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Because once it is part of their cost, and previously they would have been gotten a refund when they export, now we are exporting our taxes. Nigeria will beat us to the competition. Right? Other African countries, Senegal and the rest will beat us to the competition. And I'm talking about ECOWAS competition, let alone Africa before global. So as an informed taxpayer, I have a lot of disagreement. For example, ESLA. ESLA was coming in cash. When me and you go to the pump, we pay ESLA. It is cash. We haven't been told why ESLA, was changed into a loan, and something that should last 5 years is now going to last 15, 20 years, which means that by virtue of the bond, we are going to be paying it in a form. So again, my reaction as an informed, taxpayer, and it's different.
Okay.
And that is why I'm saying that the questions should be more specific to the policies that are being put in place. And if I put on my Minister for Finance hat, remember, I went through a lot trying to explain ESLA against the background of Doomsday, which was called a nuisance tax. So I think the answers will be completely different if we were to skew the question to specific policies.
So it's interesting that you make that point. And basically the bottom line of what you're saying is, no, you wouldn't, under the current regime, want to pay more taxes, though the CDD Afrobarometer Report suggests that a lot of Ghanaians, about 61% of them plus, would be willing to pay more taxes, but they want to see what specifically their taxes are going into. But let me quickly take you back briefly. This willingness of Ghanaians to want to pay taxes or even pay more if need be. If you were finance minister, how would you leverage that to, ensure that indeed you can accrue more when it comes to revenue generation?
I would empower GRA.
How would you do that?
One. A policy like the national identification number being converted to a tax identification number is something governments have been wanting for a very long time. So that is welcome.
You started a project on that in 2015, didn't you?
Yes, we made an announcement, but we were, which was to come from China, did not come because it involved automation also, and that's my second point. The second point of enabling is to automate particularly the domestic tax division of GRA, which is not well automated at all after the merger of IRS, and the VAT service. And this was to be part of the revenue modernization phase 2. Because why? Because the essence of the tax administration number, let me give you one specific use, is that when I import as a businessman and customs inputs my tax identification number, the domestic tax offices should be able to access that customs information and take out, by virtue of the tax office number and the tax identification number, the taxpayers who pay taxes in the Ekropon, in Somalia, in Tamale, in those offices. And I should be able to, therefore, analyze the customs data so that when somebody is claiming VAT input tax credit, or when somebody is saying that I'm making a loss, you are comparing it to the import that the person brought in, and you are saying, wait a minute, your declaration on domestic taxes is not commensurate with your import and export activity. This is how you empower. So tax administration needs to be strengthened. The portions of tax administration that are stalled over the last 4 or 5 years, need to be stalled, particularly now that we have upgraded all the, and then the coordination between tax and customs. And it is also only then that you can use the national identification number, to get non-tax information, because clients or your clients, if you call, or taxpayers, do businesses where they use the tax identification number. Are we going to replace it with, say, the SNP number, so that it can be linked to the employer's number, and all those types of. So compliance is very important. So I would say that foremost is enabling. You see, we cannot increase as a middle income country, and that's part of the controversy, in the last 2 days. You cannot continue to just increase the tax rate. You cannot continue of existing taxes. You cannot continue to block, the rise of taxpayers and make the tax system inefficient. What you also have to do more is to equip the tax administrators to do the information tracing, to do, ensure that people are filing, to ensure that they are doing proper audits, and to even prosecute those who are not paid, through the court. So that's a useful compliment, which I would say would have helped, increase the revenue.
Let's address two very thorny issues that also cropped up in this survey. One of them has to do with the fact that up to 61%, about 6 in 10 of those surveyed, said that they didn't know what taxes to pay or how to go about it. That is one. And the other one would be the fact that a lot of these people who were surveyed, about 84% of them felt that in our tax regime, the collection of taxes, those involved in the system, from the GRA to others on that belt, they feel there is some corruption in there. About 34% actually saying that all of them are corrupt. So from the standpoint of not even knowing what taxes to pay or what the processes are, to the standpoint of corruption, even in taxation, how much of a problem are these, and how do you feel we can address them?
And let me add a third. The study says only 4 citizens say they trust the tax authority. So, talking about in addition. So, the first one you mentioned is a major function of tax administration. And when they are well equipped, when they are given, it's not just about going to collect taxes, it's also about education. So, GRA has a whole taxpayer education unit that is supposed to do this. These days they use it in social media, the modern techniques. But many people, many tax officers in the tax offices, their primary function is to walk the streets, to walk the shop front, and educate taxpayers about their obligations. Because tax is what we call voluntary compliance. As a citizen, you must comply with your obligations voluntarily and self-assess, tell the taxpayer, because you are the only one who knows how much income you are earning. So I think these are the studies. Corruption, again, goes to GRA strengthening its efforts. But I think, even if you say that corruption is not unique to GRA, I think it's also well known that it's a concern for Ghanaians. And I don't think that is a surprise. But those are the ethical, disciplinary, and other issues, which again, GRA is established. Let me say that, Ghana has, one of the well-structured tax administrations with some qualifications.
Just to get that correctly, Seth Terkper, did you say Ghana has one of the worst structures? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
I said the best. But I was adding qualification that, for example, it is becoming too top-heavy. We are having too many senior officials and whatever. It used to be very lean at the top. And therefore, it requires, secondly, more delegation. And again, providing. And I must say that some of the equipment I'm talking about is GRA itself, because the state has a law that says that a certain percentage of the tax they collect should be kept at source, for them, to do the administration. If you are not applying this efficiently, then they themselves are also failing the citizen who is reposing that trust in them. And so a lot also depends on GRA to manage the resources efficiently. You are right. Those are disturbing observations from taxpayers.
Okay. This corruption we're speaking of in even the revenue generation belt of our country, taxation, is that something you've been aware of? I mean, when you were finance minister, for example, did you see any of this? Did you suspect any of it? What did you do?
I was aware of it as a tax administrator.
You were aware?
Both as a junior, not a junior officer, I mean lower in the senior officer ranks, and as I rose, I left, after, the VAT as deputy commissioner. So I would say that this is something which, at the board and management level, and yes, at the fiscal authority level, it is. Because in every organization, there are some bad nuts that give the organization a bad name. And I must say that there are many GRA employees who are doing their work and would not like, the tag that the institution is corrupt. So yes, it's an awareness. To say that one is not aware of it is not to be truthful. But then having said that, it requires internal mechanisms, education, orientation, as well as some disciplinary measures, in the conditions of service and I think this is something that is ongoing and needs to be intensified.
Okay, so let's segue into the next belt of the conversation, and it's going to be more educational on this level because, like you mentioned, we were met with that information, so to speak, that Ghana's rating by the IMF had dropped to, a low-income country. Of course, we have the low-income countries, the lower middle income, upper middle income, and then the high income countries. But then there was also that response from the IMF's country director, Tuna, who also came to state that that was not, in fact, the case. We know that in July every year, some of these are made mention of by the IMF with regard to country categorizations. But I just want you to educate us. When we talk about low income, lower middle income, upper middle income, high income countries or advanced countries, what does that really mean? Break it down for the ordinary Ghanaian.
Okay. Let's start by saying that the institution that puts countries in those categories you mentioned, advanced, middle, emerging countries, low-income countries, and even fragile countries, is the World Bank. And the method that the World Bank uses is to take the wealth of a country. That is what we commonly call GDP in Ghana. I think many people are familiar, which is the total wealth that we generate annually, which keeps increasing. In the case of Ghana, it increased, one, on account of rebasing, because it is a measure of economic activity. It's a survey. And services sector was not as representative in the basket that is used, like inflation basket, right, before 2010 rebasing. So services sector became the largest sector of the economy. Everybody knew that. So the basket for services was increased. And then it means that it surpassed agri and agro-processing. Now, when they take that total income, right, and they divide it by the population, you get a certain amount per individual. If that amount is 1,100 and above, but does not reach, if it is below 1,100, you are a low-income country. If it is between that 1,000 and let's go to the upper limit for the interest of time, 12,000, then you are a middle-income country. If it is above 12,000 US dollars, we are talking about US dollars, no cedis, then you become an advanced country. You will see, therefore, that the category has a large number of countries. Okay. Now, when you use that criteria, Ghana is still a middle-income country. When you use a primary, let me use the word primary. When you use a primary criteria, Ghana is still a middle-income country because our per capita income or our income per individual per capita is even above 2,000 as we speak because of three things: rebasing, a services and construction sector growing rapidly, and oil. And it's increased when we added 10 field and Sankofa. Now, what is the IMF saying? And this is where I would have expected the IMF report to be more candid. You remember we went into this controversy whether we were heading towards HIPIC. The IMF office came in. We also went in parallel numbers. The IMF office also came in. That's Ghana office. And said, well, it's up to the government. At the time when they were revising the basis on which we calculate deficit and we calculate debt, right? Okay, diplomacy, perhaps. The report is a fiscal report. So what the institutions like the IMF and in fact the ratings agencies, remember, who can downgrade you or upgrade you?
So you're talking of Standard & Poor's, the Fitches, and the rest.
Moody's, and exactly. They take your status, and when they say, how should or how are middle-income countries behaving? Now, the consequence of becoming a middle-income country, we received official notification in 2013 by your good self, right, myself. It has two consequences. One, you begin to lose grants. And then two, you begin to lose concessional financing. That is, loans which are very low interest rates, which are typically given by the World Bank. And then grants which support your budget. Why? Because your income has gone up and you are expected to take care of yourself better so that the world will focus on the fragile and low-income countries. What does it take to take care of yourself? One, you must be able to generate revenue, what we have just been talking about.
Right.
And then they say that if you're a middle-income country, your revenue to GDP ratio should be 17 or 18% as a sub-Saharan African country. But if you compare to other richer middle-income countries, you should be about 20%. Where are we today? We are at around 11-12%.
So to cut to the chase, the Tunamama, who is actually the IMF's country director, said that there's not likely to be a change in our status as a middle-income country. But I just want you to box all of these.
So yes. Let me just wrap up.
If I may land on this point, so that you put all of it together. You look at our lending rate or our borrowing rate currently. I think I saw recently talk about Rwanda, Kenya borrowing at about 2-3%, and Ghana doing same at about 8%. When you put all of these together, how are they going to impact our current rating status? Come July, there will be another rating. How do you feel that will impact it?
Precisely. So what we should be debating is that Ghana's indices compared to even middle-income countries, and Rwanda and others, Rwanda is not yet a middle-income country, I believe, right? We have low-income countries whose indices are better than ours because our debt, even by our own law, our deficit even by our own law should be 5%. And if you look at the report, the table, you can have at it. The average is around 5-6%. We are doing 13-11%. We are not generating enough revenue. Our debt as a middle-income country should be within, to be able to borrow at those low rates, you should be doing 55 to 65%. We are 80%. We have been aching ourselves. And it doesn't have to take the IMF. We have been aching before the resident representative came in that we are using about 110 to 115% of our tax revenue to service only two items. You would agree with me, right? That we have to service compensation and interest payment, not even talking about the principal. And therefore, we are borrowing to finish paying those items. We are borrowing for development, and we are even borrowing, right? Do we have answers? Yes. And that is some of the mechanisms like a sinking fund and a stabilization fund, which helps us during stabilization, during crisis.
Yes, but the point I quickly want you to make, Seth Terkper, is this. Some countries in the West can afford to borrow over 100% of their GDP and maintain their ratings. The bit is, for a country like Ghana, looking at our borrowing trajectory, is this likely to affect our rating when it comes to the World Bank from a lower middle income country? Is it likely to affect it?
If we put all of the indices together and we don't take just one index, the World Bank index, and the index is what some of the index is what I'm talking about, which is why we should take it, seriously. Yes, we could. But the point you make is very important. In fact, when you look at the table 1-2 in the fiscal report, the advanced countries, their debt to GDP ratio, right, average, 2016 was 105.5%. Fast forward, 2020, it is 120.1% of GDP. It is supposed to be 122 because of COVID and the rest. So you can say, you are right in saying that And this is the point I took issue with the fact that, we say that advanced countries are borrowing 100%, 100% of their GDP, so we can also borrow at 100% of our GDP. The truth is that they are borrowing and servicing their debt at 2%.
Right.
Sometimes at 0.1%.
Right.
You are borrowing and paying on domestic 19-20%. Our T-bill came down from 23% to about 16%. Is today at 12%, which is still high, as you are saying, compared to. So it is a cost of borrowing, which ultimately will bring you down. Right.
Well, this is a conversation we can always have. We shall continue having, in fact, as the dynamics, progress. But Seth Terkper, we are very grateful for your time for joining the conversation this morning. Seth Terkper is a former finance minister and he's a tax expert. We're grateful, sir. There's more coming your way on the AM show as we get ready to wrap up Showbiz with Mapito Sibidi. Do stay. We'll be right back.